Hello and welcome. We are now on to chapter 2, and then in chapter 2 basically I've explained the file structure that we have here. So to on this video I'm just gonna explain the index and the server JS. So the index is basically just HTML. As you can see here, with the script tag including our HTMX and our bootstrap also with this link here. And today we are building a BMI calculator. So we have a form, right? We have a form tag here, we have a form element in our HTML, and in our form element we have these three HTMX attributes here. The first one is trigger. So trigger is basically something similar to event listener on JavaScript, right? So our trigger here is submit. So that means as soon as there's a submit event, right, whatever we want to do, we're gonna send a post request here. We have HX post, we're gonna send a post request. The HTMX here is just saying that that will happen. It's basically the same as on submit or something like that in the world of JavaScript. And then we have a target here. As explained in the last video, the target is the HTML element that we want to change or manipulate basically as all of this is being run. Our server-side code is being ran, right? And as you can see, our target is the element with the ID of result. And if you look here on line 25, we have this div here just underneath our button. It is the ID of result. So whatever we do is going to happen here, right? So as you can see, it's initially empty, so we're probably going to add something, right? But you'll see that later. So we have an input element here, and then in the input we have height. Basically this is where the user is going to input their height. As you can see, the placeholder is enter height in meters. They're going to input their height in meters, and then we have another input which is weight. They're going to input their weight in kilograms. They're both type text, but they're both taking numbers. So you will see that on our server.js we actually do something to change that. And then we have a submit button here, basically to trigger this HX trigger attribute. And then we have a button here. We have two classes, button primary for our bootstrap. And then going to our server-side code now, as you can see, we have app.post basically to handle a post request. And then the route that we're working with is calculate. If you go back here, that's the route we're sending our post request to. And then we have an anonymous function here with request and response as parameters. We create a variable called height. We pass it into float because remember the input is of type text. We pass that into a float, and this is how we basically get the this is how we get the value of the input here. We use request.body.height. This is the same as document.getElement by ID or something like that, right? And then we have a weight variable here, which is the same thing but for the other input box, which is going to be for the weight. And then here we have a variable called BMI, and this is where we calculate the actual BMI. We take our weight, we divide it by the height squared. That's the formula for calculating BMI. And then we are going to return a response using the .send method, and our response is going to be once again in HTML format, as you can see with these HTML tags. And then we have a string in the inner HTML, a formatted string, and it's going to say the height of whatever height that the user gave and weight of whatever weight that the user gave, gives you a BMI of whatever we get when we calculate this, when we divide the weight by the height squared. And we basically just fix that to 2 decimal points, right? So that we don't have a long float, right? And then we close the tag, and then as well, once again we start the server. So the server's already running. I'm gonna close it and run it again. I'm gonna close it and run it again, so you can see how we use the npm run dev command. As you can see, that runs the server. The server is listening on port 3000. We go to localhost 3000. As you can see, we click enter. It takes us here to this page. I'm just gonna refresh, right? And then I'm gonna enter my height. I am 1.78 meters tall and I weigh 72 kilograms. Calculate BMI. As you can see, this div here is populated. The inner HTML, the div here result, has this text now from our app.post function, right? Height of 1.78 meters and weight of 72 gives you a BMI of 22, which is something I'm not gonna tell you whether that's healthy or not. Yeah, so that is all for don't laugh, Bob. That is all for chapter 2. Thank you.